The funeral was broadcast across 14 systems. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Adrian Shaw stood at the back of the memorial hall, watching as Empress Cyrithal of the Veloxi Dominion delivered her eulogy for the fallen soldiers. Her voice was steady. Her posture was perfect. Her face showed nothing. 47 Veloxi had died in the border skirmish. 47 families were grieving. And their Empress spoke of their sacrifice with the emotional depth of a weather report. Adrian had been assigned to the Veloxi court as part of a medical exchange program, humans sharing their surprisingly advanced trauma medicine, Veloxi sharing their biotechnology. 6 months in, he had learned many things about alien physiology. He had also learned that the Veloxi did not cry. The sacrifice of our warriors honors the Dominion, Cyrithal was saying. Their service will be remembered in the archives of the Eternal. Their names will join the litany of heroes who have... She stopped. In the front row, a Veloxi child, no more than 5 or 6 by their development, had begun to make a sound. Not crying exactly. Veloxi couldn't cry. But something similar. A keening noise that rose from somewhere deep inside, a sound of grief that had nowhere to go. The mother tried to quiet the child. The audience shifted uncomfortably. And Cyrithal stood frozen at the podium, her golden eyes fixed on the small figure with an expression Adrian couldn't read. Then she did something unprecedented. She descended from the podium, walked to the front row, and knelt before the child. "Your father served with honor," she said quietly, though her microphone still carried her words to the hall. "He died protecting what he loved. And you," she hesitated, "you are permitted to feel this. However, it needs to come out." The child's keening grew louder. The mother looked horrified. The audience was utterly silent. And Cyrithal, Empress of the Veloxi Dominion, placed her hand on the child's shoulder and stayed there until the sound finally faded. The ceremony ended shortly after. Adrian found himself summoned to the Empress's private chambers that evening with no explanation. He found her standing by the window, still in her ceremonial robes, looking out over the darkened city. "You were at the memorial," she said without turning. "I was. You were watching me with the child." "I was." She turned, and for the first time, Adrian saw something other than composure in her features. Something almost like confusion. "Your species cries," she said. "When you experience grief, you produce tears. Your bodies shake. Sounds emerge without your control." She tilted her head. "Why?" Adrian blinked at the unexpected question. "It's physiological. A release valve for emotional pressure. The tears contain stress hormones. The physical symptoms help process. I understand the mechanism." Cyrithal moved closer. "I'm asking why. What purpose does it serve? Why would evolution create beings who leak fluid from their eyes when they are sad? Because grief needs somewhere to go. If you hold it inside, it damages you. Crying lets it out. And then what? After the crying, what remains? Relief, usually. Not happiness, the grief is still there. But it's lighter. More bearable." Adrian studied her expression. "Why are you asking me this?" Cyrithal was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different. Smaller, somehow. That child at the memorial. She was trying to grieve for her father. But Veloxi do not have crying. We have no release valve. We are expected to process grief internally, privately, in accordance with our position and duty. She looked at her hands. "I have been processing grief internally for 300 years. And today, watching that child try to express something she had no mechanism to express, I wondered." "You wondered what it would feel like to cry?" "Yes." Her golden eyes met his. "Is that strange?" "It's very human, actually." She almost smiled. "I am not human, Dr. Shaw." "No, but you might be more like us than you think." Their conversations became a ritual. Every evening, after her official duties ended, Cyrithal would summon Adrian to her private garden, a sanctuary of bioluminescent plants where no surveillance reached. They would walk the winding paths, and she would ask him questions that no Veloxi was supposed to ask. "Tell me about sadness," she said one night. "Not the theory, what it feels like." Adrian thought carefully. "It's heavy. Like something pressing on your chest. Sometimes it makes you want to be alone. Sometimes it makes you desperate for connection. Both at once, often both at once. Emotions aren't logical. Our philosophers would say that is weakness. Our philosophers would say it's what makes life worth living." Cyrithal paused beside a cluster of glowing flowers, their light casting strange shadows across her features. "I have ruled for 300 years. In that time I have lost my parents, my siblings, 2 consorts, and more friends than I can count. I have presided over countless memorials like the one you witnessed." She touched one of the flowers, her clawed fingers gentle. "And I have never once allowed myself to feel any of it." "That sounds lonely." "It is efficient. A grieving empress is a distracted empress. A distracted empress makes poor decisions. Poor decisions cost lives." She shrugged, a gesture she had adopted from him. "The logic is sound." "Logic isn't everything. For Veloxi, it is. It must be." She turned to face him. and yet I find myself envying your species. Your messy, illogical, tear-producing species. You grieve openly. You process together. You allow yourselves to be weak in front of others. It's not weakness. It's trust. Explain. When you cry in front of someone, you're showing them your vulnerability. You're trusting them not to use it against you. That takes more courage than hiding everything behind a mask of composure. Sirathil absorbed this. I have never trusted anyone enough to be vulnerable. Not since childhood. What happened in childhood? Her golden eyes flickered. I lost my clutch sister. We were 9. There was a disease. She did not survive. She paused. I cried then. Or tried to. The tears came, but they were insufficient. The grief had nowhere to go. My mother told me that Veloxi do not cry, that I must process internally, that showing emotion would shame our lineage. You were 9. I was heir to the Dominion. 9 was old enough to begin learning duty. She smiled bitterly. I learned it well. Adrian reached out and took her hand, a breach of protocol so severe that she could have had him executed for it. She didn't pull away. You've been holding that grief for 300 years, he said quietly. Your sister's, and everyone else's. All of it locked inside because you were never allowed to let it out. If I let it out now, I fear, her voice caught. I fear I would not survive it. Or maybe you would finally start to heal. Heal. She repeated the word like it was foreign. I do not know what that means. It means feeling the pain instead of storing it. It means crying until your chest stops hurting. It means letting someone hold you while you fall apart, and trusting that you'll be able to put yourself back together. That sounds terrifying. It is. But it's also the only way forward. He squeezed her hand. You've been frozen for 300 years, Sirathil. The grief is still there, still fresh, because you never let it thaw. Her golden eyes were luminous in the flower light. If I were to try, to feel what I have been avoiding, would you stay with me? As long as you need. Why, you are human. I am Empress. There is nothing you could gain from this. I don't want to gain anything. Adrian smiled. I just want to help someone who has been alone too long. Sirathil stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his, a Veloxi gesture of trust so profound that it was usually reserved for bonded pairs. Then help me, she whispered. Teach me how to cry. It did not happen immediately. Grief stored for 300 years did not release on command. Sirathil tried, in the privacy of her chambers with Adrian beside her, to access the emotions she had locked away. But each time she approached them, something slammed shut. It is like a wall, she said, frustrated. I can sense what lies behind it. I can feel its weight. But I cannot breach it. You built that wall when you were 9 years old, Adrian reminded her. You built it to survive. You can't expect it to come down overnight. Then what do I do? Tell me about your sister. Tell me what you remember. Sirathil closed her eyes. Her name was Verithil. We were hatched from the same clutch, moments apart. She was smaller than me. Quieter. Flames. She loved music. She would hum melodies she invented while we played in the garden. What else? She was afraid of storms. She would crawl into my nest when the thunder came, and I would tell her stories until she fell asleep. Sirathil's voice wavered slightly. She told me I was the best storyteller in the Dominion. I told her she was being ridiculous. I was 9. What did I know about storytelling? She loved you. Yes. And I... The wall trembled. I loved her. More than anything. She was my other half. My mirror. My first friend. And then she was gone. She was gone. Sirathil's hands clenched. She was gone and I was still here, and no one would let me feel it. They told me to be strong. They told me to honor her memory by being a good heir. They told me that crying was weakness and grief was distraction, and I needed to focus on the future, not the past. You were 9. I was heir. You were a child who lost her sister. You were entitled to cry. You were entitled to fall apart. And they took that from you. Adrian moved closer, his hand finding hers. They stole your grief and told you it was for your own good. Something cracked behind Sirathil's eyes. She used to hold my hand, she whispered. When we were scared. When we were happy. When we had secrets to share. Her grip on Adrian's hand tightened. I have not held anyone's hand since she died. I could not bear to remember how it felt. You're holding mine now. Yes. Tears, actual tears, the first in 3 centuries, began to form in her golden eyes. Yes, I am. Does it hurt? Yes. A tear spilled over, tracing a silver line down her cheek. Everything hurts. Everything I have been avoiding. Everything I stored away. It is all... Her voice broke. It is all coming back. She started to cry. Not elegantly. Not quietly. Sirathil, Empress of the Veloxi Dominion, wept like the child she had never been allowed to be. Great, racking sobs that shook her whole body. Sounds of grief that had been waiting 300 years to emerge. Adrian held her through all of it. He held her when she cried for her sister, when she cried for her parents, when she cried for every memorial she had delivered without feeling, every loss she had processed internally, every moment of connection she had denied herself in the name of duty. He held her until the sun rose over the Dominion, and she finally fell silent. "I did not expect that," she said hoarsely, her head resting on his shoulder. "No one expects their first real cry. It ambushes you. Is this what humans feel? Every time you lose someone? Yes? It's awful." "It is." She pulled back to look at him, her face streaked with silver tears. "It is also the most alive I have felt in 300 years. Word spread as it always did in courts. The Empress had been seen crying. With a human. In her private chambers. The scandal was immediate. The council demanded explanations. Conservative factions called for Adrian's exile, or execution. There were whispers of weakness, of corruption, of human manipulation. Seraphil let them whisper. She let them whisper for 3 days. Then she summoned the full council to the Grand Hall, and addressed them with tears still visible on her face. "I have served this Dominion for 300 years, she announced. I have never once shown weakness. I have never once allowed emotion to interfere with duty. I have been exactly what you asked me to be, cold, efficient, controlled." The council waited, and I have been dying inside. Slowly. Year by year. She descended from her throne. I lost my sister when I was 9. I have lost countless others since. And every time I processed internally, as our culture demands, I locked the grief away where it could not distract me. "Your Majesty," one of the counselors began. "I am not finished." Seraphil's voice cut like a blade. "3 days ago I cried. For the first time since childhood I allowed myself to feel what I had been avoiding. And do you know what I discovered?" No one answered. "I discovered that grief does not weaken you when you release it. It weakens you when you hold it in." She looked at Adrian standing at the edge of the hall. "A human taught me that. A human showed me that vulnerability is not weakness, it is courage. It is trust. It is the foundation of every real connection we will ever make." She turned back to the council. "The child at the memorial, the one who tried to grieve for her father, she knew something we have forgotten. She knew that pain needs somewhere to go. That holding it inside does not make you strong. It makes you hollow." "Your Majesty, with respect," Lord Vareth, the most conservative of her advisors, stepped forward. "The Veloxi have maintained emotional discipline for millennia. We have built an empire on the foundation of rational governance. You cannot simply—" "I can." Seraphil's voice was quiet but absolute. "I am Empress. And I am telling you that I asked why humans cry, and I didn't expect her to try it, but when I did try it, I discovered something that has been missing from our civilization for too long." "And what is that?" "Connection. Real connection. The kind that comes from being seen in your weakness, not just your strength." She looked around the hall, at the rigid faces, the controlled postures, the beings who had spent their lives hiding from their own emotions. "We have built an empire, yes, but we have built it alone. Each of us locked inside ourselves, processing internally, never reaching out." She extended her hand toward Adrian. He walked forward and took it. "This human reached out to me," she said. "He offered to help me feel what I had been avoiding. He stayed with me while I fell apart, and he was still there when I put myself back together." Her grip tightened on his hand. "That is what connection looks like. That is what we have been missing." Council was silent. Some faces showed shock. Others showed something that might have been recognition, a flicker of understanding, quickly suppressed. "I will not hide this," Seraphil continued. "I will not pretend that Dr. Shaw is merely a medical consultant or a cultural exchange participant. He is my partner. My chosen. The person who taught me that strength is not the absence of tears, it is having someone to cry with." She turned to face Adrian, her golden eyes bright with something that was not quite tears. "You asked me once what healing meant," she said. "I think I understand now. It means letting someone see you broken. It means trusting them to stay. It means building something new from the pieces of what you were." "And what are you now?" Adrian asked. Seraphil smiled, a real smile, full and unguarded. "I am someone who knows how to cry," she said. "And that makes me more powerful than I have ever been." She kissed him then, in front of the full council, in front of the recording drones, in front of the entire watching Dominion. And somewhere in the hall a counselor's eyes began to glisten. Then another. Then another. Seraphil had asked why humans cry. She had tried it for herself. In doing so, she had given her people permission to do what they had been forbidden for millennia. To feel. To grieve. To heal. The Dominion would never be the same. And that, she realized, was exactly as it should be.